So we're back for punishment number 3. It's like getting a spanking. Oh yeah, I like it. I like it.
So make sure you tune in for your weekly spanking.
Okay, this is Ravings of a Lunatic number 3 now.
I'm Tom.
I'm some other guy. We'll call me Bob this week.
His name's Dan, guys. He's just being a jackass.
Yeah, but I'm good at it. Okay. Our last episode, we were talking about the de-evolution of the gaming community, but at the same time, a slight resurgence in it. So, through crowdsource funding, through reinvigorating other aspects of it, like the non-collectible card game, or the using the Warhammer motif from your move games in a card format. What we're going to try to yuck it up about this time is where those innovations may go and all this other fun stuff. What's the next big thing, or what?
I do want to say something, though. Warhammer has been going good for, I want to say, at least 10 years.
Oh, God, longer than that.
No, but I mean, let's just say it really took off in the past 10 years.
Right.
And now they have, their Space Marines. They've got their futuristic warfare.
Warhammer 40K.
And they've got their
Medieval.
Warhammer Fantasy.
Yep.
And
RPGs, too, for them both.
And exactly.
And a short-lived card game, but we
won't go there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, whatever they're doing it right.
Well, from a buyer's... But that's more of a niche market because of, you have to buy them, paint them, assemble them. We're talking about...
Not the RPG games. Because the RPG games are doing just as well.
Right, but I'm talking about people that, when they play games, they want to get the game, sit down, and play it. And yes, RPGs, you can say, well, it takes time investment to start. I got to sit down, make my character, yada yada. But once you get going, I've known people. Those campaigns run years.
I miss the old RPG games, but unfortunately, somebody doesn't want to sit down and play anymore.
I'd like a group of at least 5 or 6. We can get maybe 3 on a good.
He ran off all of our friends.
They were friends? All right, anyway. All right, looking at innovations or potential innovations. I think before we delve into what's new, maybe we should look at current formats and what can be done to change them. I mean, I hate going back to the LCG from Fantasy Flight, but it's showing that it works. The WizKids pre-painted miniatures, it works.
Here's a question. Do you think that, let's say, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Fell under tomorrow, okay? Do you think it would work as an LCG? Like, if someone repackaged Yu-Gi-Oh! As an LCG, do you think it would work?
I think, and I'm not 100% sure, I think, because Fantasy Flight gets licenses for... They've repackaged old card games, but ones that didn't last that long. I think if somebody took... let's take a long-running card game and see. Like, let's take Vampire, the Eternal Struggle. That was all about...
But I've never played that one, so we got to stick with something I know.
Well, it's the same premise. We're not talking mechanics here. That game was out over 10 years. Or the old Raw Deal card game. That was fun. It was over 10 years. In other words, what you're asking is if somebody took a game that had basically a crap ton of expansions, how would they repackage it? Two things. They could repackage it as is. Like, they could re-release each set as its own, crap cards included, and basically, but when you buy it, you get all the cards. I mean, that's one way of doing it. That to me is that to me would be something like a cash grab. It's like, we're going to reprint all these Yu-Gi-Oh sets quickly because it's not like they have to do anything.
They've already done that, though. Like, half the new Yu-Gi-Oh sets were reprints of old sets.
Well, no, but they're still collectible. I'm talking about if I was to say, I just want to make money. I'm just going to take your old proofs and templates and crap and just print them again, but in sets amounts. Or they could put in the work and cut all the fat.
Basically redesign the game?
No, I'm saying you can keep... That's option 2. You could keep the game the same and just cut out all the crap cards. Like, this set had 200 cards in it, but 50 of them were just filler crap, and just cut them completely. Mm-hmm. Or the third one, you just get the license and just redo it from scratch. I mean, it really depends. There's multiple ways to go. But one thing I see happening, like right now, deck building games. You open the box, you build decks out of the cards in the box, and you play your friends. It's like, oh, hey, that's a 4-player game. We're all going to build decks out of these and play. Well, what's one of the fundamental aspects of the current collectible card games that make them vastly popular?
Well, I think Magic, it's definitely... I mean, Magic's got a long-standing legs, though.
But what makes it's? I'll give you. It's not the cards. It's not the packaging. It's not the themes. What makes those games get out there and hit people in the face?
Mechanics?
No. Dude, it could be the worst card game in the world. Yu-Gi-Oh! I played a lot of card games. Mechanically, Yu-Gi-Oh's but why do people play it?
The name.
Organized play.
I'd say more the name.
No,
I mean,
it's organized play. It's tournaments.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's jumps.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was picked up big because of the name, dude. Yu-Gi-Oh! Originally started as a show called Card Captors. It was repackaged as Yu-Gi-Oh!
But again, you're and this is my opinion, but I'm probably right. Your fallacy goes towards this. Duel Masters had a cartoon. There's a lot of properties based on TV shows.
Nowhere near as popular as Yu-Gi-Oh! I mean, you had kids that would literally come home from school,
but
sit down and watch
flawed
hours
the number one
of
selling
Yu-Gi-Oh!
hobby industry game doesn't have a TV show. It doesn't have anything. Magic doesn't have any of that.
Books.
Oh, you know what? Find me grab me 100 Magic players, and how many read a book? 2.
Yeah, but you gotta
organized play. Your Friday Night Magics, your pre-releases, Yu-Gi-Oh! With their Shonen Jumps, Pokemon has their leagues. Organized play is because when Wizards was at its peak with Pokemon, every Toys R Us would have a league. You know, Targets are doing. I mean,
Books A Million, yeah.
Organized play because is the pinnacle of it because it's a social setting. The gaming at its core is social, and the more accessible you make the social aspects of the game, the more successful I believe it's going to be. I mean, Grand Prix for Magic get 1,000 people in Europe. You know,
yeah, but look at Europe.
Oh, there's been a couple in the U.S.
Yeah, but not as many.
Oh no, but we have more of them. And contrary to public or opinion, transportation and distance is a big factor. I can drive from Germany to Scotland in 10 hours. Working drive 10 hours in the U.S. Plus mass.
In 10 hours, I can get to Virginia.
Right, and mass transit in Europe is so awesome. You know, a guy in Spain can hop on a train and be in Germany by like that evening, ready to play in the Grand Prix. So the transportation's better, it's more affordable, and
so
the
fuck
distance
it.
isn't
Let's
big.
just close everything down and move to London.
But it's more expensive.
Yeah, but minimum wage is better.
No, gaming, trust me, dude, I've been there. I've been to card shops in Portugal, England. I mean, it's because of the tariffs and all that other crap. And the duties. But my point is, I believe that the social aspect of the game represented organized play is. I mean, I'll give you 2 examples right here. The X-Files card game, its initial print run sold out, so they re-released it in a beta, kind of like with Magic, and it sold pretty good. They released 1 set, but by the time that first expansion set hit the streets, they had just started doing the organized play program, and then it died. Babylon 5, one of the best multiplayer card games I've ever played. You could have 3 to 6 players. It was fun, but they had no organized play. Not really. And a lot of these games, and then there's been crappy games that had great organized play, and made it. I mean, look at TSR Spellfire. It's highly touted as one of the worst card games ever, but it lasted 8 sets. But they had solid organized play. I mean, granted, a lot of it piggybacked off because, old TSR D&D, they had a lot of events or a lot of conventions. They had tournaments for that, and they piggybacked off that. But it had organized play. even though the old Inquest magazine, Spellfire, was a butt of so many jokes, man. And it was an awful game, but it lasted longer than some of the greatest games I've ever played because it had organized play. The companies behind it put the money where their mouth was and prizes. I mean, you go to Friday Night Magic. Most places I play, you get a pack, $5. You get to hang out with your friends for 5-6 hours and play some Magic. That I think is.
Wait. What friends?
Again, but my point is relating back to the evolution of gaming. Like I was saying earlier, you get these deck building games. You're like, oh, I got a couple friends over. We're gonna build decks out of these cards I got right here. Well, what if you took the organized play aspect of collectible card games and applied the deck building? In other words, I go to my friendly local game shop, and I pick up this non-collectible card game. I buy a box. It's like $30-$40, but I get like 3 or 4 of every card in there, and then I build my deck from these cards, and then I go to a Friday night, the equivalent of a Friday Night Magic for this one.
But that just sounds like a pre-constructed, or not a pre-constructed, but a sealed.
Well, no, because a sealed deck for whatever you build, whether it's a Yu-Gi-Oh pre-release, a Pokemon thing, you get X random cards. Build the best deck you can out of it. Now, if I have access to all the cards in the set, and then I get to build what I want, it would be like a constructed tournament. But I don't have to worry about shelling $120 for that Planeswalker or $5 for that really good uncommon. I have everything I need. I think organized play is a potentially good addition to non-collectible in whatever format, because now it's not about money. It's not about I got to open 6 boxes to get those 4 ultra rares. I have everything I need. Now it comes down to skill. Because little Jim Bob boy, Billy, whatever the hell his name is down the road, whose mom's a doctor and dad's a professor, your allowance is whatever you want. I buy it. In other words, you get what I'm saying. Everybody has access to the same stuff.
Of course. Not everyone's going to think like that, though. Like, a lot of these kids are like, oh, I'm the best because I have the best. And see, that's the problem. That's the mentality that our kids have these days. I am the best because I have the best.
My point is you equal the playing field. But, again, I'm saying a lot of these games are successful because of the organized play. And as we've seen, non-collectible games can break into the market. Nobody's putting out collectible card games because the risk of the investment is too much. Wizards has put up the new one, Kajaminga or whatever. It's basically a dual. It's a dual Masters upgrade, but it's not doing that great. Numbers-wise, it's doing okay, but they pumped so much money into it. A TV show, and they just pumped a lot of money into it. But for a non-collectible that you can print on demand, like a board game, I don't mean print on. I need a copy. You do like a 10,000 print run of a board game, you sell it. You don't have to worry about it with the expandability. Because the problem with expandability, it's fine. But you get into games like Settlers of Catan, Small World. At what point does expandability get old? But with a non-collectible card game, or even a non-collectible miniature game, and WizKids has done that a little. They've had limited edition set releases where they're non-collectible, like the Watchmen one. I think they released like 9 or 10 figures for that set, and the one with all the different rings for Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Or there's special ones like the Galactus, the Fing Fang Foo, or if that's his name, the big dragon guy. There's a lot of things that they've done where they've combined collectible, non-collectible, and it's had moderate success. But I'm saying that's one innovation that isn't set to gaming. So at the end of the day, it's like, what will make it better? Well, I mean, like, what would... Can you think of anything that you'd want to see somebody try with gaming?
I would like to see another... I mean, I enjoyed that competitive race of the CCGs back in the day. It was fun. I mean, yeah, but the money was involved.
You mean the different CCGs?
Yeah, because like I used to play Magic, I played Pokemon, I played Yu-Gi-Oh! I even played Dragon Ball Z.
Well, but see, that's the other problem is, and like you look at it as board gamers. You know, they buy a board game. It's like, hey, I got my board game, and then the next month or whatever, I'm going to buy this one, and then buy this one. You can play board games and have an extensive library. And have, lots of fun. Card games, good luck having a second one on the side. They're so cost prohibitive.
I mean, yes, they are cost prohibitive. I'll give you that one.
Let me rephrase it. If you want to be good at them and competitive. I mean, you can be good at them, but...
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, I guess my point is... It goes back down to quality of product. If I'm making non-collectible card games and I'm making good ones, and it allows you to have multiple products out at a time. Instead of focusing on, I got to do this card game, this card game, this card game, or expanding your staff. I think a smaller staff company could do multiples. But again, we're veering, card games aside. But, I mean, sitting here trying to think, what's the next big thing? I mean, WizKids hit it dead on, but, that was a long time ago, and what do we see, whether it's a spin on a current game
To be
type?
honest, dude, I'm just ready for virtual reality.
The Matrix. Okay, Neo.
No. I'm talking about I'm ready to be able to completely step out of my reality into another reality and just have fun and not worry about consequences. I mean, yes, there are consequences for everything you do, and I'm
you're
sure
saying not as dramatic as you die in a video game. You just pop
exactly,
back up,
you just pop back up or you wake up. But the problem is, I mean, I think the biggest thing, I think the biggest reason we don't have virtuality is for the simple fact that what the fuck are our bodies doing if we're not?
Well, technologically, that's a whole other aspect. I mean, we're trying to stick here and now. I mean, I'm sure there's guys going on it. The last time I tried virtual reality with any seriousness, we got the Virtual Boy.
That was just nasty.
Oh God! But I mean, take board games for instance. There's a lot of like I mentioned earlier when we had gone to Protospiel up in Ann Arbor, Michigan in July. There was a lot of tile-based games, and we played one. It was at Santorini. It was simplistic and it was fun. And there was that other one we had, the Tile War one.
Yeah.
It was only what 5x5 tiles, and it was just like,
it was a lot of fun.
I mean,
but we have a tile-based game in the works too.
Well, not as much as theirs. It was about stacking and doing this. Or there's another guy. He had one, a little simple one for kids. You had 4 cars. You started in the middle of the board, and you laid tiles to lay a road out, and the object was the first guy to drive off the board. But you had little curves you could throw in your... I mean, I can't think of any real predominant tile games prior to the... I'm sure there have been some, and there's been a few, but I mean, I guess it was because it was such a small crowd of game designers, and there's so many tile-type games, it was like, whoa. I think those are... And I'll refer back to expandability. Card games, obviously, expandability, miniatures. Board games, I think, are restricted for expandability that rely heavily on boards. Because, like Settlers of Catan, they've expanded the original game a lot, but then you run out.
Yeah.
Then they come out with new versions.
Yeah, Small World. Got the Star Trek and Star Trek Catan.
Well, I'm talking just the main, or Small World.
Yeah.
Now it's Small World Underworld. You don't have a different board. Where tile-based games, there was one, the guy that runs GameCraft, what I call Merc, his game board, quote unquote, is cards. So, I guess my point there is number one, in production value, boards are pretty expensive. But if my board can change, size and look whenever I play, depending on the number of players and stuff, like the original Small World, there's a board for 2 players, 3 players, and I believe 5 players, 4 and 5 players. That's a lot of boards. It's got 2 boards in it, and they flip over. So, that's a lot of crap. Where if my board was, I got a deck of cards, it's like, oh, my board is 4x4 cards. Oh, we have 5 players, now it's 6x6 cards. It lowers production costs and replayability, because no matter how many times you play Small World, 2 players, the board's still the same. Now I can change the board, and you get people that play like Risk. I mean, it's an older game, but it's still fun. But they've played it so much, they know specific strategies for everything. They know what territories they want because they know where they are. I mean, it gives an advantage to veteran players, and the replayability, I think, falls down. So, by going tile-based, whether it's a game actually on tiles or you're stacking them on top of each other, or you use it for, there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for expandability. Let's say, my board is this deck of cards. And then I'm the game designer. I'm like, you know what? I always want to put my game in, medieval times instead of Victorian times. I'd just release like a little 40, 50, however big my deck is from the main game. You're like, oh, here's your new board. Gameplay's the same. Just different scenario or different world layout. The old Tomb Raider, there was actually the Tomb Raider card game was kind of like that. I think it was an okay concept. You would play cards in front of each player's little Lara Croft, and that was and that became your little tunnel, cave, whatever, or dungeon or tomb you were trying to raid. It was innovative. The actual play mechanics are kind of clunky, but hey, it was an idea. They didn't fully, I think, flesh it out, but what the hell, man? It was an idea. I mean, I don't know if miniatures have been done to death, but
I think miniatures have been done to death for a lot of things, but I think miniatures can still keep going because I think HeroClix is done. I mean,
it's still pretty popular.
No, it's still popular, but I mean, there's only so many heroes, so many times they can print.
Well, I mean, you got to look at the licenses. I mean, they've done them. They've done the horror ones.
HorrorClix.
They've just started, I believe it was last year, they started doing little starships for Star Trek. So now they're getting little Starfleet battles with it.
Yeah. I mean, but I think, we've seen Dungeons and Dragons miniature games come and go. Uh-huh. We've seen a Yu-Gi-Oh! Miniatures game come and go.
But that's always pissed me off. WizKids never went back to their roots. Never went back to Mage. Was it Mage Knight?
That was their first one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that game, they stopped production so they could work on the Marvel and DC, the HeroClix, and they never went back. That game,
I know.
I love that game.
Mage Knight was good.
That version of it, yeah. But I mean, miniature, and that's the thing. Miniatures is probably the oldest gaming niche, aside from, let's say, cards. Back to your bridge, poker, rummy, all that variations. Historical miniatures, the guys that do the little, those have been around like forever.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think I remember playing the Yu-Gi-Oh! Miniature game before I played the card game. And there was Pokemon miniatures game.
Yep.
There was there was a Digimon game.
Just don't remember that one.
Well, I mean, Digimon, the card game actually had a decent concept. It played a little like Pokemon. Instead of like evolving your Pokemon normally, you had to have a Digivice that matched the color. It had to match the right kind, and you would play the Digivice, and he would be able to Digivolve. And you had to have the card, of course. I mean, it was a good concept. The problem was that
it was competing in a flooded market.
Exactly, it was competing in that flooded market. But I remember playing the card game, and I remember playing the miniatures game.
Yeah, that was Digimon. I mean, they've tried new innovations. I mean, the Beyblades. For fuck's sakes, man,
dude. All I've seen with Beyblades are kids just throwing them at the floor, being like, "Yeah," and then watching them spin like tops.
Yeah, I mean, the marketing was brilliant, but the game plays like shit. It's not even a fucking play.
Exactly, it's not even, and you can't really do organized play with it because it's all about really luck.
They have it.
I know they do, but I mean,
it's dumb as shit.
Exactly.
I mean, what was the other one? I mean, they've had a ton of. That's my point. People are still trying to innovate all the time, but you have to find the right combination of organized play, skill, creativity. I mean, there's a whole plethora of things that go into it, and sometimes you hit gold, sometimes you don't. Hey, Pogs was cute, but that sold more for its collectability, and they're cheap.
Fucking marbles. You remember playing marbles?
But marbles take some skill.
It did. But, I mean, do you remember playing marbles as a kid?
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember the whole point was, you knock them out of the circles.
Well, there were variations of
course.
how you played. I mean,
and then you take marbles.
It was like pool for
exactly.
kids.
And you could go to school one day with like 6 or 7 marbles and come home with like a bag full.
Right.
And I mean, Pogs was kind of the same way.
But Pogs, the skill level, I don't care.
Yeah, there was no really skill level.
Right.
Like marbles, it actually took a decent eye. I mean, it was
right.
They're skill based.
But I mean, right now the big ones, board games, card games, miniature games, and role playing games. Those are the big 4.
Yeah.
I mean, what is there another genre we haven't discovered yet, or a hybrid of the two? I mean,
well, there is a hybrid of board and miniatures. I mean, HeroClix can be considered a hybrid of board and miniatures.
Yeah, well, and there's hybrids of RPG and miniatures.
Yeah,
like the old MechWarrior RPG. We would play. Then we'd actually do the BattleTech battles with our pilots as the pilot. Think of the skills. So yeah,
and then of course you had HeroScape. I mean,
board game
miniatures. I mean,
and you could even RPG it up a little if you want.
You could.
But what about card game miniatures?
They've got one. I can't remember the name of it, but
there was role playing card game. I forgot what it was called. Dragon.
I don't remember, but there's a card game. There's not. It's not really. It is a card game, but you basically played a summoner,
right?
And you had a deck of cards and a set of miniatures. You could summon creatures and put the miniature on the field. And then your card had all of its abilities and things like that, how much it could move, so on and so forth. I can't remember what the hell the game is called for the life of me right now, but there was a game like that, and I've seen it played before.
But what was the what do you think held it back from being popular? Was it put up? Was it a smaller print run?
It was a very small print run.
What?
Not so much clunky rules, but it took a lot of people's time because first off, miniatures had to be painted.
Yeah. What if they combined the the non-collectible miniatures? Like, I buy this miniature, I see what it is, and I get the card with it. But then I had to buy packs of cards or decks to get like the spells and enhancement stuff.
Yeah. See, that'd be different. And then, of course, a lot of the movement was based off of Warhammer movement. It would be 6 inches here, 8 inches there, and that stuff gets really annoying where you have to keep track of where they are, where they're targeting and firing.
Again, what if I had, and again, I mean, this is, I don't know how bad it is. Say I had a board, and that's where my miniatures went. BattleTech was a hybrid when it first came. I mean, you had to paint your miniatures, but the maps came out. And you're a guy, you had a sheet with the stats on it, like, I can move 5 hexes. So it took all the movement calculations of Warhammer out. And that was, I think that made it easier. BattleTech was like one step. It was a slight evolution that eventually would go to WizKids and their stuff.
But we haven't been making those strides anymore.
Well, see, I'm not going to say we haven't. Maybe someone has, and they just haven't found a publisher or an audience for it. But, what is there something else? I mean,
I think most of it's been done.
I mean, that's just food for thought. But aspects obviously replayability,
of course.
The two biggest, in my opinion, are affordability and organized play. I'm a firm believer that organized play can make or break a game.
I agree, but once again, that is our time for today. So, until next time, we want to thank you for listening. Once again, my name's Tom.
And some other guy.
You guys behave. Don't do anything stupid.